I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I'd have cracked his jaw in a way he'd never smile again. We were at a dinner I didn't even want. Ashley, my wife, had begged me to come. Said we needed a serious talk. Somewhere nice, somewhere neutral. The kind of request that already feels like a warning shot. I should have known. The restaurant was candlelit, all polished wood and quiet string music, the sort of place where the waiters wear gloves and the water costs more than my favorite bourbon. And there he was, Chase Donovan, my wife's so-called colleague. He was already seated when I arrived, wearing that smug black shirt that looked 2 sizes too small, like he'd borrowed it from a protein powder ad. Ashley sat beside him, hand just a little too close to his thigh, laughing louder than I'd heard her laugh in months. I forced a smile and took the seat across from them. But under the table, my fists were clenched. Ashley flashed me that practiced grin, the one that says, "Don't embarrass me." "Logan," she said sweetly, "this is Chase. You've heard me mention him from work." He leaned in, his eyes locking on mine like we were in some twisted Wild West duel. "I'll make this simple," he said smoothly. "You've got 2 options. Leave quietly, or face me like a man." Ashley didn't flinch. She smiled. And that's when I knew. This wasn't a dinner. This was an ambush. I leaned back in my chair, studying him like a science project. "You want my teeth whole?" I asked quietly. "Or in pieces?" For a second, he smirked like he'd won. But then my smile widened, the kind that made Ashley's face pale. Because if they thought I was walking in blind, they were wrong. I'd been one step ahead of Ashley for weeks. And tonight? Tonight was just the beginning. The funny thing about betrayal is you can smell it before you see it. Ashley thought she was slick. Late meetings, sudden gym memberships, perfume I hadn't smelled in years. She even bought new underwear, tags still on, never meant for me. So yeah, when she asked me to dinner for a serious talk, I already knew what was coming. That's why I'd been keeping records. Text messages, receipts, even a little footage from a camera I'd installed months ago, originally to keep an eye on the dog walker. But hey, sometimes life gives you gifts. While she was out, working late, I was cataloging proof. Because I wasn't going to be the clueless husband stumbling out of a restaurant humiliated. No, I'd already shifted the board in my favor. That night, after Chase dropped his little ultimatum, I excused myself before the waiter could bring our drinks. I didn't storm out, didn't raise my voice. I just leaned in close enough for Ashley to hear me over the music. "You're playing a game you already lost," I whispered. Her smile froze, just for half a second. Chase didn't notice. He was too busy straightening his cufflinks, probably imagining himself in our bedroom. I left the restaurant calm, collected, the way a man leaves when he's holding aces and the others don't know it yet. When I got home, the house smelled like her perfume. But it wasn't just hers. It was musky, arrogant, his. And that's when I noticed it. The bed was perfectly made, tighter than a hotel room. Ashley never made a bed like that. She came home an hour later, eyes darting, a fake brightness in her voice. "How was dinner?" she asked, pretending nothing had happened. I just smiled. Oh, it was illuminating. She looked at me, searching, but I didn't give her a clue. Because the thing about being one step ahead, you never show your cards until the whole table's watching. And trust me, the show was only beginning. 2 days later, I got a message that detonated everything. It wasn't from Ashley, not from Chase. It was from Chloe, one of Ashley's old college friends. The kind of woman who sees through facades like X-rays. Her message was simple. Don't trust her. Meet me. No emojis. No context. Just a time and a place. Old Pine Park, 3 p.m. I showed up 20 minutes early. Sat on a cold bench watching squirrels argue over scraps while the sky threatened rain. When Chloe walked up, no makeup. Dark hoodie, eyes sharp. I knew this wasn't gossip. She didn't sit. Just handed me her phone. On the screen, a photo. Ashley, my Ashley, wearing a sash that said bride-to-be, mouth locked with some shirtless guy in a fake cop hat. His hand was under her dress. I blinked. Chloe's voice was flat, like she'd run out of sugarcoating months ago. Her bachelorette party. 2 nights ago. She left with him. Swipe. Next photo. Ashley grinding on his lap, head thrown back like she was auditioning for a perfume ad. Swipe again. Her lipstick smeared, laughing with a bottle in one hand, a heel in the other. She told the girls not to say anything, Chloe added. Said it was her last night as a free woman. Said she earned it. I stared at the screen until the images blurred. Finally, I handed her phone back. My jaw locked so tight it hurt. Why are you showing me this? I asked. She didn't blink. Because you deserve to know what you're marrying into. I nodded once. No rage. No tears. Just a quiet, simmering clarity. Because Chloe didn't know it, but she hadn't just exposed Ashley. She'd handed me the final puzzle piece I needed. And if Ashley thought she was the only one playing games, she was about to find out. I played to win. The night Chloe handed me her phone, I didn't sleep. Not because I was shocked. No, that part had worn off weeks ago when I first smelled Chase's cologne in my own hallway. What kept me awake was how calm I felt. Like the storm had passed, and now it was my turn to chart the aftermath. Ashley had spent months, maybe longer, underestimating me. Treating me like some dull husband who folded his socks and never noticed the lipstick stains that didn't match her makeup drawer. She thought I'd take it. She thought I'd smile through it, like a man grateful just to be chosen. She was wrong. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at her empty wine glass from the night before. She'd poured it the moment she walked in, humming like she hadn't been caught in 4K on Chloe's phone. That was her gift, the ability to perform innocence while leaving a trail of betrayal wide enough to drive a truck through. But here's the thing, I wasn't angry anymore. Anger's a fire. It burns quick, bright, loud. And I wasn't going to waste my energy on flames. No, what I felt was colder. Sharper. Like steel. At 3 a.m., I opened the laptop. Not hers, mine. I logged into the little cloud folder I'd been curating. Screenshots, receipts, text logs, photos Chloe had sent. Everything neat and time-stamped. If betrayal was art, I had a museum exhibit ready. Now all I needed was the right audience. The next morning, Ashley breezed into the kitchen like she hadn't blown up our marriage. Yoga pants, hair in a messy bun, phone already glued to her hand. She kissed the air near my cheek, not actually touching me, God forbid, and said, "I'm running late, babe. Big day at work." I sipped my coffee. With Chase. She froze, just for half a beat, before plastering on that smile. "Don't be paranoid. You know I've got a meeting with the client today." I looked at her over the rim of my mug. Right? The client. Does he wear a cop hat too? Or is that just for special occasions? Her smile faltered. Only for a second, but it was enough. She dropped her phone in her bag, a little too fast, and shot me that look. The one that says, "Don't you dare embarrass me. I don't know what Chloe told you, but you can't believe everything you hear." I leaned back, calm as a man reading the morning paper. Funny, I didn't say Chloe told me anything. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. She just grabbed her keys and stormed out, slamming the door like that counted as winning. That was the moment I knew I had her. Not because she was guilty, I'd known that, but because she finally realized I wasn't the fool she thought I was. The next 3 days, I played it cool. Didn't confront her. Didn't act suspicious. Just smiled, kissed her cheek, and asked about her late meetings. The more normal I acted, the less she could read me. And for Ashley, not being able to read me was torture. Meanwhile, I was busy. First, I met Chloe again. We sat at the same park bench, both pretending we weren't in the middle of detonating a marriage. "You sure you want to go through with this?" she asked. "Positive." She studied me, maybe expecting a flicker of hesitation. Instead, I smiled. "You know the best part about being underestimated, Chloe? People don't see you coming." She smirked. "Then I'll make sure you've got everything you need." And she did. Photos, screenshots, even a video clip, the kind of thing that left no room for excuses. Second, I called an old college buddy, Grant. He worked in IT and owed me a favor for keeping his freshman year escapade with a professor out of the campus newspaper. "You still know how to trace emails?" I asked. He laughed. "What do you need, a digital smoking gun?" Something like that. By the next morning, I had copies of every message Ashley and Chase had sent each other for the last 2 months, including one where she wrote, "Don't worry about Logan. He's too boring to notice." That one made me chuckle, because boring men don't build dossiers. Saturday night came. Ashley walked in at 9:47 p.m., the smell of wine and perfume hitting me before the door closed. She kicked off her heels, humming. I was sitting in the living room, calm, waiting. "Hey babe," she called. "Sorry I'm late. Chase and I had to." She stopped when she saw the manila envelope on the coffee table. Her name was written across it in neat block letters. "What's this?" she asked, frowning. I gestured toward the couch. "Why don't you sit down and find out?" She hesitated, eyes darting like a deer sensing a hunter. But she sat. She opened the envelope. And then silence. Page after page of printed screenshots. Photos. Emails. The video. Her hands trembled as she flipped through it. You went through my things. I raised an eyebrow. Correction, I went through our things. And Chloe's things. And Grant's inbox. Turns out the internet keeps receipts longer than you keep vows. Her face twisted into something between rage and fear. This is invasion of privacy. I chuckled softly. Ashley, if you're going to cheat, maybe don't narrate it in writing. She slammed the papers onto the table. So what? You think this means you've won? You think anyone will care? Everyone makes mistakes. Sure, I said, leaning forward. But not everyone has a file this thick. She glared at me. What are you going to do, Logan? Divorce me? You'd look pathetic. Everyone will think you couldn't keep me happy. I smiled. Who said anything about divorce? Her eyes narrowed. She opened her mouth, then shut it. For the first time in months, Ashley didn't have a comeback. Because she knew, I wasn't planning to leave quietly. I was planning something much, much worse. And that's where I left her that night, staring at the pile of evidence like it might bite. I didn't raise my voice, didn't slam a door. I just stood, stretched, and said, "Get some sleep, Ash. Tomorrow's going to be interesting." Then I walked upstairs, leaving her alone with the pieces of the life she thought she'd controlled. And as I lay in bed, one thought carried me to sleep. She had no idea what was coming. The morning after Ashley flipped through that envelope, the house felt like a crime scene. Not because of yelling, there hadn't been any. Just silence. The kind that hums in your ears and makes every movement sound like a confession. She tried to act normal, came down the stairs in her silk robe, poured herself coffee, scrolled through her phone like she wasn't 2 feet from the man who now held her entire double life in a neat stack of papers. "Morning," she said, too casually. "Morning," I replied. Calm, steady. Her eyes flicked to the envelope still sitting on the coffee table, then back to me. She forced a little laugh. "So, are we going to talk about last night? Or are you going to keep pretending you're Sherlock Holmes?" I sipped my coffee. "Oh, we'll talk. Just not yet." Her smile faltered. She hated not being in control. Ashley was the kind of woman who'd rather pick the fight than sit through the silence. But I wasn't giving her the fight. I was giving her the stage. Around noon, she announced she was going to yoga. I almost laughed. The only pose she'd mastered lately was lying flat on her back for chase. Instead, I nodded. "Have fun." She blinked, like she'd expected me to forbid it. That was the first tell. She knew the leash she'd been holding had snapped. The second came 30 minutes later, when Chloe texted me. "She's not at yoga. She just checked into the Mason Hotel. Room 307. I typed back, "Perfect. Thanks." I didn't go charging over there. No, I had a different plan. See, I'd already booked the Masons' event space for later that afternoon. A private celebration with a guest list Ashley didn't know about yet. By 4 o'clock, the room was ready. White tablecloths, champagne on ice, a little projector hooked up to a laptop. Looked like a classy anniversary party, which was exactly the point. My guests arrived right on time. Chloe, of course. My college buddy Grant. A couple of Ashley's co-workers, the ones she bragged to about being too smart to ever get caught. And my favorite? Her parents. The ones who always looked at me like I was the boring son-in-law holding their dazzling daughter back. They mingled, laughed, sipped champagne, still clueless. At 4:30, Ashley walked in, freshly showered, hair still damp, wearing a dress she definitely hadn't left the house in. Chase followed right behind her, adjusting his tie like the smug little prince he thought he was. Ashley froze when she saw everyone. Her parents, her coworkers, me, standing at the front with a glass in my hand. "Logan," she said slowly, smile twitching at the edges. What's going on?" I gestured around the room. "A celebration. For us. 20 years together. I figured, why not share it with the people who know us best?" Her eyes darted to the projector, to Chloe smirking in the corner, to her father raising an eyebrow like he'd just smelled something sour. She tried to laugh. "This is sweet. I didn't know." "Of course you didn't," I cut in smoothly. "It's a surprise." I raised my glass. "Before we toast, I'd like to share a little highlight reel. Some memories." Ashley's face drained of color. Chase shifted uncomfortably, like he'd just realized the gunfight he swaggered into wasn't staged. I clicked the remote. The projector flickered on. First slide. Ashley and Chase at her bachelorette party, lips locked. The room went dead silent. Her mother gasped. Her father muttered, "Good Lord." Second slide, a string of messages. "Don't worry about Logan. He's too boring to notice. I can't wait until tonight. He'll probably be asleep by 9. Her coworkers shifted, whispering. Chloe folded her arms, victorious. I let the images roll. Photo after photo. Message after message. Each one punctuated by a silence, so heavy you could hear the ice clinking in the champagne flutes. Finally, I paused on the video. Chase, half-dressed, grinning at the camera Ashley didn't know was there, whispering, "He's never going to find out." I let the line hang in the air. Then I turned back to the room. "To my wife," I said calmly, raising my glass. "Who thought she was the director of this little play? Turns out, she was just the lead actress, and tonight, the whole cast gets to see the script." No one clapped. No one spoke. Ashley's face was crimson, her hands trembling. Chase looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. She finally stammered. You had no right." I set the glass down. "You're right. I didn't. But see, I'm not interested in rights anymore. I'm interested in truth." Her father stood abruptly, his chair screeching. "Ashley, outside. Now." Her mother followed, glaring at Chase like he'd tracked mud onto her white carpet. Her coworkers excused themselves, some looking embarrassed, others entertained. Chloe lingered, giving me a subtle nod before slipping out. That left Ashley and me. She collapsed into a chair, eyes burning with fury. "You humiliated me." I tilted my head. "Strange. I thought you'd be used to an audience by now." She slammed her hand on the table. "You think this makes you strong? You think this makes you better than me?" I leaned forward, calm as ever. "No, Ashley. I don't think I'm better. I just think I'm free." She blinked. "Free? From you?" Her mouth opened, then shut. For once, Ashley Donovan, the woman who always had a line, a smirk, a comeback, had nothing. I left her there, sitting in that chair, surrounded by the wreckage of her own performance. Walking out of the Mason Hotel, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I'd ruined her, though I had, but because I hadn't shouted. I hadn't begged. I hadn't broken. I'd simply held up a mirror and let her see exactly who she was. And the best part? She still hadn't figured out that this was only Act 1. Because the cruelest revenge isn't exposing someone. It's what you do after the world stops looking. Ashley didn't call me that night. Didn't text. Didn't storm home with accusations or excuses. I almost admired her restraint. She'd been caught in front of the people she valued most. And instead of throwing a tantrum, she went quiet. Dangerous quiet. That's how I knew she was planning her counterattack. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen and found her sitting at the table, hair pulled back tight, a mug of black coffee in her hands. She didn't look up when I came in. "We need to talk," she said flatly. "Morning to you too," I replied, pouring myself a cup. She finally looked at me, eyes sharp. "What you did yesterday was cruel. And petty. You didn't just hurt me. You embarrassed my parents. My coworkers. You made a spectacle." I leaned against the counter. "You mean?" I told the truth. Her jaw clenched. "You think you've won. But you haven't. Because people forget. Give it a month, and all anyone will remember is that you humiliated your own wife in public. Not that I made a mistake." "A mistake," I repeated, raising an eyebrow. She held my gaze. "Yes, that's what they'll call it. A mistake. But you'll be the bitter husband who couldn't handle it like a man." I smiled. "Ashley, I don't need to win a popularity contest. I just need you to lose one." That wiped the confidence off her face for a second. But then she leaned back, smirk creeping in again. "Fine. You want to play dirty? Let's see how long you can keep up." I sipped my coffee. Calm. Unbothered. Because what she didn't know was that I had already played the next hand. 2 days earlier, before the hotel celebration, I'd made a stop at the bank. Cleaned out half of our joint savings. Nothing illegal, just smart timing. Ashley never noticed, too busy texting Chase under the table to keep track of the numbers. Then I called my lawyer. "Divorce papers?" "Not yet. Something subtler. A separation agreement," I told him. "Nothing official yet. Just a draft. With terms very favorable to me." He raised an eyebrow. "You think she'll sign that willingly?" I grinned. "Not willingly. But she will sign." Back in the kitchen, I slid a folder across the table. She frowned, flipping it open. "What's this?" "Your new reality," I said simply. Her eyes scanned the pages. The color drained from her face. "You're joking," she whispered. "Not even a little." The agreement laid it all out. I kept the house. I kept the car. I even kept the vacation cabin up north she always bragged about to her friends. In exchange, she got a comfortable monthly allowance. Enough to live, not enough to show off. And the catch? She had to sign away any claim to my retirement account. She looked up, furious. You think I'd ever agree to this? You already have, I said softly. Her brows knitted. What? I leaned closer. Yesterday, when you walked into that hotel with Chase, the cameras in the lobby caught you holding his hand, smiling, walking in together. You think the board at your job will overlook that when they hear why you've been skipping client meetings? Her lips parted. No words came out. I continued, calm as a surgeon. I sent a copy of the footage to your company's HR this morning. Told them I'd hold off sharing more if you signed the agreement. They're very interested in avoiding a scandal. So the way I see it, you've got two choices. Sign, or explain to your boss why your client meetings involve hotel champagne. She slammed the folder shut. You're blackmailing me. I shrugged. I'm giving you an option. For a long moment, we stared at each other. Her chest rose and fell sharply, her nails digging into the wood of the table. Finally, she whispered, You're not the man I married. I smiled. Thank God. That night, I didn't hear from Chase. Not a text, not a knock at the door. Coward probably realized his name was now stapled to her downfall. Ashley signed the agreement the next morning. No tears, no fight, just a trembling hand and a pen that seemed heavier than it should. You'll regret this, she muttered. I folded the papers neatly into a new envelope. Funny, I already don't. Here's the part she never saw coming. A week later, while she was still licking her wounds, I made another call. Not to my lawyer this time. To Chloe. You were right, I told her. About everything. She chuckled. I usually am. So what's next for you? Next? I paused, watching the sun dip behind the trees outside my window. I think I'll let Ashley keep her new boyfriend. Chloe laughed outright. That's your big revenge? Let her have Chase. Exactly, I said. Because you and I both know how she works. She thrives on drama. On the chase, no pun intended. But give her what she thinks she wants. Watch how fast she gets bored. And when she does, Chase will realize he wasn't the prize. He was just the placeholder. Chloe was quiet for a second, then said, That's cruel. I like it. Over the next month, Ashley moved into Chase's apartment. She tried posting pictures online, smiles that didn't reach her eyes, captions full of fake joy. I didn't comment, didn't block her, just watched. And slowly, like a clock winding down, the cracks started showing. First, she stopped wearing the necklace Chase bought her. Then she stopped tagging him in photos. Finally, the posts stopped altogether. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My work picked up. I spent weekends at the cabin. Chloe and I got drinks once in a while, just as friends, though she had a way of looking at me like maybe it wouldn't stay that way. The unexpected ending came 6 months later. I was at the grocery store when I spotted Ashley. No makeup, hair in a messy bun that didn't look intentional this time. She saw me before I saw her. Logan, she said softly. I raised an eyebrow. Ashley, she tried to smile. It wobbled. Can we talk? I chuckled. We already did. Her eyes glistened. It didn't work out. With Chase, I made a mistake. I leaned closer, pretending to study the cereal boxes behind her. You're right. You did make a mistake. Just not the one you think. She swallowed hard. Can we at least try again? I smiled. Not cruel. Just final. Ashley, I'm not angry anymore. But I'm also not available. You burned down the house, and I built a cabin on the ashes. Her face crumpled, but I didn't stay to watch. I just walked away, leaving her standing there in the cereal aisle, for once, the one abandoned. Because my revenge wasn't the public humiliation. It wasn't the legal trap. It was this moment. Ashley finally realizing I'd moved on, and she never would. After the grocery store run-in, Ashley started texting me. Nothing dramatic at first, just little things. Hope you're doing okay. Thought I saw you near Main Street today. Do you still go up to the cabin? I didn't reply. Not once. Funny thing about silence, it's louder than shouting. And for a woman who thrived on attention, my silence drove her crazy. Chloe told me later she'd been asking mutual friends about me. He seems different, Ashley had said. Colder. Sharper. Not like before. That was the point. I wasn't the man she could twist anymore. I was the ghost she'd never be able to touch again. And every time she realized that, the sting was worse than anything I could have said out loud. 3 months later, I hosted a small get-together at the cabin. Close friends. A few colleagues. And Chloe, of course. Word travels fast. Faster than I expected. By the time the fire pit was lit and the music was playing, who do you think pulled up the gravel driveway? Ashley. Alone. She stepped out of her car like she'd been invited, smoothing down her dress as if appearances could still save her. Logan, she said, with that fake warmth she used when she wanted something. Strange, I said, holding my drink. Don't remember sending you an invite. She smiled tightly. I heard. Thought I'd stop by. Just to catch up. The group went quiet, watching. I let her twist for a moment, then gestured to Chloe. Actually, I said, I'm kind of busy catching up already. Ashley followed my gaze. Saw Chloe leaning against the railing, arms folded, eyes sharp. For the first time in her life, Ashley didn't have the spotlight. And she hated it. She stayed 10 minutes, pretending she was there by chance, then left without touching her drink. When her taillights disappeared down the drive, Chloe smirked. That was fun. I raised my glass. Best part? She thought she was crashing my party. Didn't realize she was just walking into her own funeral. By the end of the year, Chase was gone. Rumor had it he moved 2 states over for a job. Some said he ghosted her. Others said she pushed him away. Didn't matter. She was alone. Ashley tried salvaging her image online, posting filtered selfies with captions about self-love and new beginnings. But the likes dropped. The comments thinned. People had moved on, except her. Meanwhile, I didn't post a thing. Didn't need to. My silence was louder than any of her quotes. One evening, I got a voicemail. Her voice cracked through the phone. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I thought you'd fight for me. I thought. A pause. A sniff. I don't know who I am without you. I deleted it. No reply. Because by then, she was no longer my wife. She was just a shadow of a life I'd already outgrown. Here's the part no one saw coming. The day our separation agreement finalized, I didn't throw a party. I didn't even tell Chloe. I just drove to the cabin alone, sat on the porch with a glass of whiskey, and watched the lake turn gold in the setting sun. Then I opened my laptop, pulled up a folder I hadn't touched in weeks. Inside were all the files, the photos, the videos, the messages, the arsenal I'd used to end her reign. And I hit delete. Every last one. Because my revenge was never about holding on to her betrayal. It was about showing her that I didn't need her anymore. That the man she tried to break came out stronger, sharper, untouchable. The cruelest part? Ashley would spend the rest of her life wondering if I'd kept copies. Wondering if one day her past would crawl out of the dark again. I hadn't. But she didn't need to know that. So in the end, I didn't just take back my freedom. I left her with exactly what she gave me for years. Doubt. And I'll tell you this. Watching her crumble under the weight of not knowing, that was better than any revenge I could have planned.